So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us today. It's okay. Yeah. I would like to start with maybe a couple of minutes on watching the breath mindfully, trying to bring our mind in moment present. And then when our mind is more calm and more in the moment present, then we try to generate good intention, motivation for being here. And then start today's talk. And then at the end, we will have some time for question and answer. Okay? Does that sound okay? Okay. So, try to make yourself comfortable, relaxed, and try to keep your back straight. That can help to be more alert and to have more clarity of mind. And feel the weight of your body on the cushion or on the chair. And you try to breathe in and out naturally, normal breath. While you are breathing naturally, try to keep your mind watching, observing the breath. And being aware of whatever you're observing with the breath. Simply trying to observe and be aware. Once your mind is settled down and in the moment present, then you can try to think, yeah, our time here together, listening to the talk, engaging in the discussions, and reflecting the meaning of and contemplating on that. And all of this become cause and conditions to awaken our mind. And all these become cause and conditions to help us to reduce and overcome disturbing negative emotions. And may it be cause condition to cultivate and fully develop all the positive state of the minds. Such as true love, compassion, awakened mind of the bodhicitta, wisdom, patient mind, content mind, and so forth. And may it be cause and condition to actualize our own highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can be not really help, but greatest help, benefit to not only oneself, to all sentient beings. Yes. So the topic of today's talk, finding a peace amidst, life storm of challenges. Of course, our life is not easy. In Buddhism, we call the samsaric life, which means, the life that is not free from the, contaminated actions and the afflictive emotions, delusions. When we have such life which is not free from them, then life is not easy. Life is full of challenge. Even though nobody wants to see painful life, difficult, challenge and storm, even though everyone wants to have a peaceful, great life,
But the fact and reality is that, there is always going to be a challenge. That is part of the package of such life. The nature of our life, the nature of such samsaric life is there's always going to be some storms, challenges, problems, sufferings that we will encounter in our life again and again at different stages of our life. And it's not only ourselves, everyone goes through that. At certain stages of our life, we have bigger storm than others. Others are having storm, but smaller storms. At certain stage of our life, we are having smaller storms, and someone is having more bigger storms. But we all go through big storms, small storms, and it's all about navigating in those storms. It's all about learning to navigate in those storms. Not to be thrown away and being drawn by those storms, but it's about learning and navigating, not to be thrown away into the ocean and drawn, but how can we navigate those storms? Because such life is, again, as I said, full of challenges all the times. Sometimes the challenges are small. Sometimes the challenge is much more bigger. So expecting not to have any problem, challenges, storms coming in our life is very unrealistic. And when you have that kind of expectations, we are bound to be more disappointed. Because emotionally, mentally, you are not prepared. Somehow, emotionally, mentally, we expect everything to be perfect. Everything to be perfect, everything to be, without any challenge or problem. But it is possible as long as you are free from, the delusion and contaminated actions. But as long as we are not free from the delusion and contaminated actions, expecting that is very unrealistic. It's not possible. It's the very nature of such birth being is that. When you are sailing in a windy oceans, you expecting it to be smooth would be unrealistic. Instead, you should be aware that it's going to be windy with all storm, and it is going to be a lot of, big waves, small waves, windy, and you have to prepare how to navigate that. So mentally, you are aware you are going to come, all this will come, and you already mentally prepare how to navigate, how to deal with that. And when actually you are struck by those storms, it doesn't catch you by big surprise, unprepared, at least on emotional, mental level. And when you are mentally, emotionally prepared, and you are not completely caught up, surprised, unprepared, you can manage better. Emotionally, mentally, you can manage better. And you started to prepare also, you know. And so because you are mentally and prepare, and also whatever way you can prepare, so you can navigate better, you can deal that better. In Buddhist we use the term samsara, and while we are in that kind of samsaric situation, but we have these expectations of being perfect, everything being perfect. Is very unrealistic. And when you find when you find it's not perfect, you get so disappointed and disturbed, agitated, all of that. But someone who is aware of that, they wouldn't be so surprised. They wouldn't be caught by so surprise. They will think, well, this is what it is. This is what it is. Samsara is like that. So if you don't want that kind of situation, then we try to put effort to get out of that samsara. Meaning getting out of such, trying to free ourselves from those contaminated action and afflictive emotions. If you are free, if you are able to free from that, then, you can expect, without all these storms. Otherwise, is part of, so, is uncomfortable, but at the same time, it doesn't disturb you so much. Definitely is uncomfortable, unpleasant, but mentally, emotionally, you can deal with much better because you are more prepared. Because you are more prepared by being aware of that. It's like, in the winter, in summer, you expect the rains. And you prepare yourself. So with the rain, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. It can be inconvenience. But at the same time, you are more prepared for that. So you don't get kind of so surprised, unprepared. And then, being totally kind of wait. On the other hand, when you are prepared, it might be inconvenient, it might be uncomfortable, but still you can manage better. You can manage better. And so I think that is all about that, is learning about that. And I then, understanding, accepting that, that samsaric life is full of such storms. And having that awareness can be helpful, So in such life, there are so many, up and downs, Again, it's part of our life, it's part of life. Sometimes when we are down, when things are not going well in our life, when things are difficult in our life, too many challenges, too many problems, even though we might feel everyone's doing very well, I'm the only one who's going through all these challenges, all the difficulties. But the fact in reality is we all go through up and down. We all go through up and down. Of course, some people are able to, have the tools or ability to navigate better, to deal with that a little better than others. But in terms of those challenges, we all go through, everyone go through, in samsara. So, we ourselves is encounter those different challenges, difficulties, problems, suffering, pain, all different storms in our life. On top of that, then, also we see pain, suffering, problems in our friends, families, the world that we live in. And sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. You are dealing with your own personal, individual challenges, difficulties. On top of that, to see, also so much pain and sufferings around you, and so on, can be not challenging and not easy. Not easy not to feel frustrated sometimes. Not easy not to be impatient. Anger, bitter. And through such different feelings, emotions of being, frustrated, impatience, anger, bitter, resentments, hatred, all those different emotions, fear, worries, all those different, when those different emotions arises, and that can disturb our mind. And in those moments, then, we lose the mental peace, mental calmness. We lose the mental peace and mental calmness. And when we are mentally not peaceful, when we are mentally not calm, due to being disturbed and agitated by those different emotions, not only we lose the peace and joy and happiness in ourselves, but also in those moments we are more likely to hurt and harm others. When we are more likely to hurt, harm and others is when your mind is disturbed, agitated. You are less likely to hurt and harm when your mind is calm, peaceful. So therefore, it is quite clear, it's important to keep our mind peaceful and calm, regardless of those small, big storm, whatever different storm that come in our life, storm around our lives. For your own peace, for your own joy and happiness, as well as for the joy and happiness of people around you. for the peace and joy in the world. When I'm not peaceful, when I'm agitated, disturbed, not only it hurts me, not only it hurts my mind, lose my peace and joyfulness in that moment, I also make people around me, uncalm, unpeaceful because of my agitation, because of my disturbed mind. It makes my family, my friends nervous, unsettled, because they can see, they can feel and see your disturbed agitations. Whatever that mind might be, due to that agitation and disturbed mind. And because of that, they can see it, they can feel it, and that triggers their mind. That triggers their mind and make their mind restless and disturbed. Sometimes it triggers them to be too wary about yourself because they see this agitation, disturbed mind, and it make them too wary, too fearful. Sometimes it make them, impatient, frustrated. Sometimes it make them maybe even angry. So again, not only it hurts you, it hurts. Even if you have no intention of hurting the families, friends, colleagues, others, just being that moment of the mind, when other people feel that energy, it just triggers their mind. It just triggers their mind, and thereby it disturbs their mind. Thereby, without even intentions, we contribute to lose someone's mental peace and calmness by being that energy. And so therefore, trying to keep, regardless of how difficult and big or small storms, trying to keep our mind calm and peaceful is the key. And if your mind is calm and peaceful, also you can concentrate better for whatever you are doing. Whatever you are doing, you can concentrate better when your mind is calm and peaceful. When your mind is disturbed and agitated, you cannot concentrate so well. Whatever you are trying to do, whether you are trying to study, whether you are trying to practice, whether you are trying to do any job, it's hard to concentrate. So again, we need that kind of peaceful, calm mind for your own well-being and for the well-being of others around you. It's not only about you. Sometimes people have misunderstanding. Meditating, practicing is selfish. You are not doing anything for others. Sometimes there's misunderstanding that it feels like it is selfish. It is just working for your own peace and inner peace and joy or happiness. No, the more peaceful, calm, the more you are able to be benefit to others. The more disturbed your mind is, the more agitated your mind is, the more harm you do to others. There are a lot of beings in this world who are extremely kind, compassionate, patience, understandings, generous, all of that. How are they able to do that? How they are able to benefit that? It comes from their state of mind. Because of their mind, They are able to be kind, generous, caring, do a lot of things for the society, to the world, because of their state of mind. On the other hand, there are so many beings who are extremely harmful to themselves, to the society, to the world. How do they become so harmful? Why do they act in such harmful actions and behavior? Because their state of minds, their disturbed minds, their anger, their bitterness, their ignorance, their greediness, and so forth, those different state of minds. So less of those negative minds, you hurt others less, you harm others less. You have more positive state of minds, the more you are able to help and benefit others. So therefore, working with your mind through practice meditations is not only for yourself, is for the others as well. Because that is when you have those, through practice and meditation, when you are able to develop those, reduce those negative state of minds and develop those positive state of mind, you are able to more benefit to others. You are able to contribute for others, yourself, and to the others, and the society, the world that we live in. And so therefore, it's extremely important to really work with our mind, And so, yeah. So there are many different, meditation practice one can kind of apply in dealing with those difficult situations to kind of find more peace and more calmness, even in those difficult situations and even in those storms in our life, One of the advice and meditation that, one of the great Indian masters, Shantideva, he mentions, many of you have heard that many times. And his own Dalai Lama says, he find that extremely helpful. He apply himself very much, and he find that there's one verse, where he says, when we have any problems, when you are faced with any problem, challenges, difficulties, pain, whatever that is, try to reflect, contemplate, is there any solution to that problem or not? Is there any solution to that problem? The challenge, the storm that we are encountering, is there any solution to that or not? Or, if there is any solution, is there a remedy for that or not? And when you analyze, when you find there is a remedy to that, there is a solution to that, that problem can be solved because there is a remedy, there is a solution to that, then why allow yourself to be, overwhelmed by so much of fear and worry and anxiety or anger and so forth? Because there is a solution to the problem. It can be solved. Therefore, you just try to stop the problem, try to apply the remedy, instead of allowing your mind to be disturbed by those different emotions. On the other hand, when you analyze, if you find there is no solution to the problem, there is no remedy to the problem, why allow those different negative emotions to arise? Because there's nothing you can do. It's just waste of your energies. Instead, let it go. There's nothing to be fearful, worried, because there's nothing you can do about it. By being fearful, wary, it doesn't solve the problems. It doesn't reduce the problems. And therefore, not allow yourself to be in that state. Instead, you try to, when you have that mind, you try to kind of distract your mind by thinking on something positive. Maybe, let's say, watching your breath for a few moments. At the moment, your mind is too occupied with that fear, worry, anxieties, or maybe too occupied with feeling of frustration, impatience, anger, whatever that bitter feeling, whatever, because of that situations, because that situations, it has triggered one of those negative emotions, and your mind is too occupied with those different emotions. When you allow your mind to be occupied, then that feeling become more and more strong and more intense, and more intense, more and more strong. It hurts and disturbs you more and more. So when you do that, then instead of that, you recognize, I'm disturbed by one of those emotions, those feelings. And then, you kind of try to, your mind from being too preoccupied with that, try to bring back to the breath. You just breathe in, out. Maybe if it helps, you breathe in very deep, breathe out very deep, and just learn to watch the breath. And if you try to slowly, when you spend few moments just watching the breath, and you are able to bring your mind from being occupied with those different emotions to the breath, and those feelings will start to subside, decrease, become more and more weak, And sometimes, some people use recitation of the mantras and just focus on the mantras instead of allowing your mind to be preoccupied with that, just focusing on the mantra itself while you recite, while you chant the mantras. Again, that can be another way of kind of bringing your mind, focus to the mantras and not be occupied with those different emotions, feelings. And when you're too not occupied, again, it helps those feelings to become lighter and lighter, weaker and weaker, less and less intense. So that, so that can be one of, helpful meditations, Another meditation and practice is trying to see the situation from different perspectives, different angles. We might be frustrated and upset and angry and even fearful and all those different emotions because we look at the situation from one perspective. And when you look from one perspective, we feel that situation is something negative, something bad, something that shouldn't happen, something that is unworthy, something is harmful. And when we have that perception, this situation is something harmful, something not helpful, something unworthy, something painful, then of course we have aversion towards that. And due to that aversion, then we have those, feeling of different feelings, anger, bitter, resentments, upset, all those different feelings it could arise. Sometimes we might be upset and angry with ourselves for that situation. Sometimes we might be upset and angry to someone that we feel or believe they're the cause of those situations. Sometimes we might be upset and angry with something else, the situation itself. But basically, your mind is, kind of disturbed by that kind of anger and, upset and, resentful and so forth, Mm. So that is when you look, but you try to look from different angle and different perspective. And when you try to look from different angle and different perspective, you might see, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Do you get it? I thought it was so bad, but it is not as bad as I thought. Because you are now trying to look same situation from different angle. And when you from different angle, you try to have different perspective. And when you have different perspective, from this angle, it is really bad. From another angle, you think, oh, it's not as bad. And when you feel it's not as bad, even you have feeling of anger and upset is not so intense. Whereas the more you see is so bad, so negative, so the stronger harmful that, the more stronger you feel about that. But when you see is not as bad, then just by being able to have that perception, by able to see that your emotions, whatever you are feeling strong emotion, already kind of less. And then you try to look from another perspective. You might say, oh, maybe it's something good. Maybe it's a blessing in guys. You can see this. In disguise. You might be able to see it's a blessing in disguise. And then you don't mind, It's like one door has shut and another door is open. Sometimes when one door has shut, we only focus on the door that has been shut. We never focus on the door that has been open. Then we learn to, not this door shut, but this door open. And sometimes new door opening might be better than the previous one. The opening of the door of the new house. This new house might be much better than the previous house from where you were kicked out. And sometimes we just focus on that had been closed. And so again, contemplating from that perspective, it can be sometimes, even though it is hard to feel for us when in that moment, that is something that could have been the best thing that could happen to me. You don't feel that moment. But again, if you learn to do that in your life, you small things, you learn to, this could be the best thing that could happen to me. And you learn to that even when big things happens, you can still be able to see this could be the best thing that could happen to me. Not something, instead of seeing it's the worst thing that happened to me, instead saying this could be the best thing that could happen to me. And especially using our own experiences in our life. We have gone through many experiences that at a certain point in our life, we experienced a lot of challenges. In that moment, we never thought this is the good thing that could happen to me. You felt it was the bad, worst thing that happened to me, But when you look back now, you think, oh, that was the best thing that happened to me. Or even you can't feel it is the best thing, you feel it was a good thing that happened to me. When you look back, you feel it wasn't bad. Even you couldn't feel at that moment, but you can feel now. And we have had so many experiences of that, not just one, many. And so bringing all this experience, Even though I couldn't feel in that moment, but in long term, it was something that happened, good thing happened to me. And same, these situations, what I'm going through now, can be something good thing that happened to my life, if not the best thing that happened to my life. There is a stories of a king and his minister. A king has a very trusted minister that he always, very wise and very trusted minister, where king always took with him wherever he go. And the king went, hunting into the forest. As in hunting, they went more deep in the forest, and then, they were met by cannibals, uh, and so, so then, uh, no, but now I'm kind of, so they went in, and then the king had an accident in that hunting trip, accident, and broke a finger, and then of course he was in pain and upset and all different emotions. And then the minister said, my Lord King, this could have been the best thing that could happen to you. Of course, king didn't feel that way, upset. He was even more upset and angry to the minister to suggest that could have best thing happen to him. But again, and then again, one day again they went into the hunting and again deep, and then they were met with a cannibal, and then, and I think when for their rituals, they needed a persons, but also without any fault, and because there was a broken head that saved the life, they let him go because it didn't fit what they needed for the ceremonies. And so then, the king remembered the minister's words that it could have been best thing that could happen to him. Even at that time he couldn't feel it, but now he understands why this was the best thing. Otherwise he could have lost his life. In the first instant, after the minister said that king was upset, so he put the minister in prisons for saying something such a horrible for him, to broken his hand and then to say that is something that could happen. It feel very disrespected, feel very, very negative. So he was very upset and put in the prisons, And so king now kind of remembered what the minister said, and it became like real now, that was the. So he went and then, he realized that what he did was wrong. He released the ministers from the prisons and said, I'm sorry, that because I didn't understand that time, but now I understand that was something best thing that happened to me that saved my life. And the minister says, this could have been the best thing that happened to me, for you to put me in the prisons. Again, the thing was a little bit annoyed. Feel like he was trying to be too smart or whatever, And then, how could it be best things that happened to you? And he said, if you didn't put me in prison, you would have taken me on the hunting, and because he didn't have been broken, he could be the one. That was, and so in that it protect my life, So of course, whether this story is just a, real thing can happen, or it's just a, kind of moral metaphor, but the idea is that even though you cannot feel, it is the best thing that could happen to you in that moment, but in long term, it could have been the best thing that can happen to you. If not best, something that would happen to you, not bad. That something that happened to you at that one could become a good, not a bad. So again, with that kind of analysis, and especially bringing our own experience help, it's not, we are not talking about someone's experience, but it's something that has already happened to ourselves many times. And so therefore, it could be that, So when you see it is not necessarily as bad, but it could be something good, something positive. Then you don't feel so much upset and angry and anger towards that, because you don't. The reason why we feel so angry and upset because we see that as something negative, something bad, something. But when you are able to see it, then and I can there's always something positive in everything. It's always finding the positive. And if we learn to look for the light in the darkness, you can always find the light. In everything you can find some light, something positive. And it's all about training your mind to look for the light, to the positive. And if you learn to do that, you can always find something positive, even in those difficulties and challenges. And if you find something positive, something light in that, you don't feel so negative about that. If you don't feel so negative about that, you don't feel so much strong negative emotion towards that. That is what in a Buddhist, especially in Mahayana Buddhist and Tibetan Buddhism, there is a practice called lojong, training the mind. And those are that lojong, training the mind, are all about that. How to see something positive, finding something positive, look, finding something positive from that and transforming in something positive, transforming the difficult into the path, something into the positive, and is about that. And and a good example is, there are many, His Holiness Dalai Lama and many other practitioners who have found that His Holiness Dalai Lama always share, while he had to go through a lot of challenges, becoming a refugee himself, having to leave everything behind. It's a sad what happened to the whole country, not only personally, but everyone there, whole countries. But I also, when he looked back, when you look back, he sometimes feel on personal level, because of that, because he became a refugee, he was able to interact with many different peoples, all kinds of peoples, different spiritual leaders, different spiritual practitioners, and he was able to meet all kinds of people from all kinds of lives. And he said that helped him to grow personally, grow in his personal practice, grow in. And with that kind of growth and everything, also he was able to reach more people, reach out more people, and be more benefit to more people. If he was still in Tibet, he might be very isolated and he might not be able to be help and benefit to so many people that he are able to be. So when you look from that, then it is something positive that can come out of that. While there is pain and suffering, at the same time, there's something positive. And so when you look something positive, you find that positive in that. Even though there's pain and suffering, all of that went through, but there is, and when you are able to see that positive, and when you are able to feel that positive, you don't have the anger that you have. If you cannot feel and see and feel that positive, then it will be hard not to feel angry. Because all you see is just distractions, pain and suffering. There's nothing positive in that. And so again, because of that, and so many other practitioners have said, they have found their practice more strongest when they were in prison during that time, because they had no options but to really apply the practice. Almost like, almost you are put in a situations, if you don't put practice, you are going to get crazy. You are going to get crazy, you are going to make yourself crazy. So the only way to keep yourself sane is to practice the Dharma, what you have learned. And because you really put into practice, the results started to come. Then the really transformation started to happen. About forgiving, about all this concept of forgiveness, letting go of anger and hatred, and to feel compassion for those even who hurt and harm you. They are able to do that. They are able to feel that, and because and so again, like that, So again, sometimes the most difficult challenges, most difficult problem, and the pain in your life can bring the best of yourself. Can bring best of yourself. It is how we use. It is more about how we use that situations. Either we use it for distractions, self-destructions, or we use it for more to bring best of yourself and for your spiritual growth and your personal growth. So from that point of view, from the personal growth as a human beings and as a spiritual practitioners, then they appreciate such situations because it gives them great opportunity for their personal growth and spiritual growth. And because you see, it's something that gives you great opportunity, like a treasure, precious, because it really gives you the opportunity to practice and to grow yourself and develop yourself. And they appreciate very much. They feel grateful, and so there's no bad feeling, ill will feeling towards such situation and towards those whom we feel created those situations. And when you don't have those negative feelings, your mind is peace, calm, undisturbed. Also, there is a meditation on what we call impermanent, meditation on impermanent, Even though when you are in the midst of challenge and difficult, it feels like it's never going to end. Or it feels like it's going to get worse and worse, not better and better. But again, recognizing, meditating on impermanent can be helpful. Even though it feels, is never changing, but, it can't remain unchanged. The nature of the situations is ever-changing, impermanent nature. So it can't be same all the time. It cannot be same all the time. It's not it goes against its nature. Its nature is ever-changing. So by understanding, so many storm has come and passed, so will this storm pass away, having that awareness. So many storm has come in my life. So many storm has come as a society, as a country, as the world, much more bigger storm than that what we are facing now, if you look throughout the histories. And all of them pass away, Whatever damage it did, damage a little bit, but sometimes from those damage, we build even better and bigger. And being aware of that, so many have come in the past on personal level, on a bigger global level, and they all have passed, and we have come out of it, and even sometimes better. So will all this will also pass away. So will this storm also pass away. Again, with that, being more hopeful, instead of being hopeless, When we start to become hopeless, then that is more danger. When there is hope, then you put effort to change. When there is no hope, then you give up effort to change because you lost the hope. And if we don't put effort, then change will not doesn't happen. To change to happen, we have to make effort. And for something to put effort, we have to have some hope. When someone is totally hopeless, then they don't put effort because there's no hope. Nothing's going to change. Whether I do this or I don't do this, nothing's going to change. So therefore, I'm not going to do anything. But when there's hope, then that is when you are, because you see there's hope that it can be changed, therefore you are willing to put more effort to make things happen and change. And when you put more effort to make things change and happen, it just happens. It's only a matter of time. So again, through such, again, being more positive, more hopeful, instead of being negative and hopeless and totally devastated. Instead, we try to have hope, we try to keep positive and, work to make the change that we want to see the change, to put effort to make the change that we want to see. So I think maybe I will, stop here and I will take some questions. Anyone has any questions, please, comment.
It's okay, so people online can hear your question.
And don't be shy.
Thank you, Geshe. I think at this time in the world, I mean, said how we approach, but at this time in the world, it seems there's a so much greater levels of conflict from interpersonal to global level, that it's almost expectation that this is a norm, you know, that anger is a norm in the Western world, that that it's valid, that it's something, of course there's some power in terms of the energy of that. But that means that as practitioners, what we're surrounded by is more and more hostility. And I know that people maybe not despair, but think, what change can I make? I know that question arises a lot, and we see it increasingly, world leaders who lack ethics, in fact, who model bad ethics, and the world becoming less ethically responsible. So faced with those sorts of challenges, how do we help each other to practice more with more hope, maybe, with more hope?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Sometimes, you know, we have to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't learn the easy way. We learn the hard way on individual level and also collectively. And maybe it's a time that we learn the hard way, you know, go through all these crises to come to as a collectively realize, you know, it doesn't work that way, and how, and then maybe collectively work to have a better world than even before. You know, I think sometimes I feel like the garbage has always been there, but it has been kind of covered up. Now the garbage is coming smelling, and it is very uncomfortable. But in long term, it's good because we are not hiding anymore. And because of that, there's much more discussions. We agree or not agree, but there's more discussions on every issues where they don't have less discussions, because everything before COVID, everything's fine. There's no problem, you know. The problem was there. It was just that it was not coming forward. It was just kind of underground there. And now it feels like all is coming up. And definitely when it comes up, can be ugly, it's very smelly, you know, can be painful, ugly, and something, and also, you know, kind of hurtful, damaging in so many different ways, and it brings a lot of pain and sufferings to so many beings. But at the same time, maybe we learn from that, from all this coming up with the time, you know, that we learn from that, and maybe next time we have a society where the garbage is not hidden, but, you know, the garbage has been fixed. the garbage is no more underground, but actually it has kind of deal with that, with whatever it need to deal with, the proper discussion, proper interaction, proper solving those problems with a different, whatever different solution that is needed to fill that. And so again, I'm hopeful in that, because this is a human created problems, and we human beings have the potentials and ability to solve the problem that's created by human, and we have always been that. The humankind has been able to do that, had been able to do that in the past, if you look throughout the history, and I do feel it can come out of that and to create even better than the present one, I don't think it is like people are becoming more necessarily unkind. People are more expressing how they feel it. Before, they are still feeling angry, they are not expressing it. The anger was there. It's ready to burst, and they were afraid to do that. Now it's kind of more direct. So in that sense, it hurts others much more hurt, and that all of that is done. There's the pain and suffering created by that. But at the same time, I think it's good for everyone to know that how everyone's feeling, how they are feeling, why they feel that way, whether we agree, not agree, but I think to have more better conversations and discussions and how to solve those, so that it's not a hiding there and then exploding one day again. Because when there is so much that energy it's going to explode one day. You can only keep, suppressed only for a certain period, and it is a time it is being exploded now. It's something that has been kind of suppressed before, and now it is something that has been exploded. And maybe with that explosions, it takes time when there's explosions, just like a volcanic, when there's an explosion, then it does a lot of damage. But then there wouldn't be an explosion for long times. There's a time for more better, and so anyway, I do feel that. But as a practitioner, it is the time now we have to practice. When people are kind, compassion, you can be kind easily. You can be patient easily. It is in those difficult times, whether you can be patient, whether you can be forgiving, whether you can be compassionate, that is the way really the evaluation of practitioners comes, When everything is good, fine, and those who are nice to you, those who agree with you, to be compassionate, we don't need so much practice, Everyone who is very kind to me, I can feel compassion easily. Everyone nice to me, I can feel compassion, but I don't have to work so hard. But it is to those who are not nice to you, who are not kind to you on individual level or collectively. That is where more challenges to feel kind, compassion, patience, all that. And that is where we have to put extra practice even now. Just like those great practitioners, like I was giving an example in Tibet, they had no options, really put for practice. And by putting practice, they were able to kind of, develop much more higher spiritual growth and realization. And that is the time for us. for the practitioners, you know, and also to show the differences, the practitioner and non-practitioners. By practicing, you are able to develop. If you are not practicing, you would not be able to develop that, you know. And so, again, that is one thing, you know. And secondly, you know, I think what we can do is we practice ourselves and not to be allow ourselves to be upset, agitated, angry, like normal being who doesn't have practice, you know, and not to feel that ourselves, and not to what you call spread that energies, you know, spread energy, that not to spread that energy, you know, saying, you know, how horrible that person is, how bad that person is, how unkind. So I said I spread that message, and then that person feel more, oh, is giving a fuel to what they're already feeling a little bit, and is being fuel to that. They're being more strongly about that. And then we put that, and then, so, you know, it's more about working with yourself and not to spread those kind of, you know, that kind of negative energies. Instead, try to spread the positive energies. Try to not spread the negative energy. Instead, try to spread the positive energy as much as possible, you know, and practice. And then, of course, you know, if there is other way that we can, in action, in different way that we can contribute to make it more peaceful, better, more kinder, then we do it. And we can only do, and we can only contribute better if we ourselves are in those situations, and we ourselves are practicing that. It doesn't work, you know, when yourself is angry and then you are trying to bring a peace. You know, you are trying to have a conference about peace when you yourself is when there's so much anger and hatred, because the energy can be felt. You know, even you don't say anything, the energy can be felt. And so it doesn't help to create peaceful environment, even with your external kind of activities of peace, if there is no internal peace. And so again, you know, it always comes back, creating internal peace yourself, and then on top of that, then how much, you know, we can interact and give and support in whatever way we can to make better. So yeah, that is, I don't know, that is my thoughts. Yes, please. Yes.
The question from online is, some people actually seem to prefer drama and disturbance. They don't like the idea of peace. It seems confronting, boring, or harder to cope with for them. What's your experience of or explanation of that tendency?
What is my experience of?
Of the situation of where people prefer drama and disturbance.
I don't think I have experienced myself in that exactly situation itself, or that I'm aware of, you know. Sometimes it's not necessarily what they appear is what they really is, you know. Sometimes we see people kind of sometimes external and internal is kind of opposite. self-loathing and self-hatred comes because there's too much selfish attitude. The more self-centeredness you have, the more stronger selfish you have, the more likely you are to have you are likely to have self-hatred when things doesn't go well, and when you started to push yourself so badly, because our self-centered, our ego, our self-centered is so big, and when we are unable to accomplish, when we are unable to do things, then we are becoming more critical and more harsh on ourselves, and through that. So this too seems kind of opposite, you know. Similarly, there is a lot of similarly like that. Sometimes, even though outside it feel like that, you know, they like that kind of, but maybe inside, not necessarily they like that way. Maybe externally, maybe they might show that kind of expect, you know. Sometimes I think maybe they feel like, you know, you are being hypocritical or pretending, because they feel they are being real because they are upset and angry, and you are not acting with that anger, and you present as you are compassionate or patient or unprovoked. That makes them more upset because they think they say, how can you be that? You are not really that. You are just trying to pretend you are being to that. I think that maybe that is what probably they provoke them to be that, you know, because they feel you are not, they might feel you are not being real. You know, you are just making them feel bad by presenting yourself as a patient and nice and them as angry, you know. So, and I think, but if someone can really feel that energy, I think they would probably feel that way. Sometimes they don't feel the energy of someone's that calm peacefulness, and then they think they are not really calm, peaceful, and that, or patience. They are just trying to be that, not really patience. And I think maybe that might provoke them more to be that. Whereas if they can really feel that whatever the positive energy that others has, then I think they will not probably feel the same way, you know, because it will not provoke them and feel the same way. It provoke them and feel that way. Again, I think that is just my thoughts. Here is one, yes, please.
Geshe, thank you very much for the presentation. So I found myself during the presentation, and particularly at the end, summarizing one of the thoughts that you were sharing, or actually a collection of thoughts, that change needs effort, and that effort needs hope, and that hope starts with inner peace. And I think that bit I kind of added on the end to sort of draw together something that His Holiness talks about often, that is that outer change starts with inner change. Outer peace, peace in the world, starts with inner peace. And on the theme of hope, my sort of personal experience around hope, having recently retired after teaching ethics and environmental sustainability for 35 years, is that I kind of walk away with kind of a dark picture that there seems to be very little hope, and yet we can sort of we can, you know, try to present an alternative picture to, you know, demonstrate inner peace in the mind. There is the danger, I think, that kind of hope as a different kind of hope, which might be a hope that's born of wisdom. Can you maybe just say a little bit about the difference between blind hope and wise hope? Or perhaps there's another clearer way of describing that. Thank you.
I think a lot of people might feel the way you felt, you know, and I think there are a lot of people who feel same way. And blind hope, I will say, is that a hope that is not possible, you know. That was what I was, a hope that is not possible. We still hope that is not possible. So, unrealistic, a lot of things that are not possible, unrealistic, but that, just trying to be hopeful. For example, like a hope, with, by taking some anti-aging pills. Because I know I've seen some people who has a hope of living a long time, 200 years, 100 years, or that by taking those anti-aging pills and hope that it will go, you can go back to 30 years like that, and I've seen that people who spend a lot of money and taking those, and really they believe and hope that it's possible. And in this time, in the future, who knows? In this time, I feel that is very unrealistic, and that would be the kind of, I would say, the blind hope. Whereas other hope is that realistic hope. We feel this is the worst time because we are experiencing that in our time. If we go back 100 years ago, is the world better time than this time? I don't think so. Women has no right. So many things, There was much more war than now. 100 years ago, of course, there is still war, and it's unfortunate and pain. But if you look 100 years ago, compare relatively, there's less war. The only problem is that we have more destructive weapons than at that time. That is the only things. But in terms of fighting with each other, trying to conquer each other's, there were much more wars there. In terms of discrimination, there's much more. Of course, there's still discriminations. In 100 years of discrimination was just a normal. It wasn't a discriminations. Between men and women, between different spiritual path, between different caste system in certain cultures, different status in different, all those were there, Of course, even in terms of climate things, I think not perfect. There's so much thing to do, but 100 years ago, there's no law on that. If we go back to the civilization of intrinsic, when all factory was starting with all these coil castings, compared to that, so many actions are taking. Of course, we are effecting result from that, and still some, but also, so when you look all of that, I still feel, we are So sometimes it feels when we just look within our lifetime, in last 50 years, 100, 50, 60, 70 years, then, and especially within the last few years, it looks like it is getting worse in many areas. But I think when I look in bigger pictures, then I don't feel that way. I feel that, within those bigger pictures, we are going in the right directions. And it is while we are going in the right direction, there are moments when we have many kind of setbacks. And this is one of the moments when we have big setback in many areas. Sometimes we make two pace, we go two and then come back once. We always want to go further and further, and we don't want to come back. But sometimes the reality is, sometimes, you go further and then again you have to come a little back, and then we feel like it's backwards, going backwards, not upward. But if you look from the bigger picture, you are still going upwards. And to me, I think that helped me, and to me also, this understanding we human beings has this Buddha natures, or that our human beings' basic natures is altruistic, and because of that, when cause and condition come together, then everyone has the potential to change. Everyone has the potential to change. And it has happened throughout the history. So many worse people who have changed and become a kind, compassionate, and also, there is I think it is, I feel like, as I mentioned before, it's not necessarily that we were better person before, kind. Before, in terms of, I don't know the better person, but in terms of the mind itself, anger, jealousy, pride, greedy, it all has been there. But I think in the past, it was kind of not expressed so, what do you call, clearly. It will kind of more keep inside. But now it is becoming more and more kind of expressive. And so when you see that, it seems like the humankind is getting worse. I don't think it's necessarily getting worse. Those emotions has always been there, and they were suppressed because maybe they feel they would be looked bad by the society, or for different reasons, embarrassment, whatever. Now maybe there is more of not feeling that and expressing that more often, and it's more painful when someone has angry to you and not express, and someone actually has anger and then express to you. Someone dislike you, not expressing, and someone coming to saying, I dislike you, is much more painful. But in terms of the mind, it has been there. So not necessarily that those negative emotion has become multiplied. That it was less before and now we are getting less and less anger and less greedy, or less as all of that. I think those emotions always been there. It is just that before it was not expressed. And now people are starting to become more expressive of that without holding it back. And because of that, it feels is getting worse. But I don't think that is necessarily. I think those emotions has always been there very strong. And it is a moment now, it is explosion of that. There's an environment for explosion of that. And maybe with that, maybe there is maybe also better understanding why. And I think when that happens, I think there's a better we humankind has tendency to be more complacency when things are getting good. And so when things get bad, then we tend to have less complacency, and then we started to work harder to make things better. And I think maybe, and that has been in the past, and I also hope that is going to happen. It's a matter of how long it takes. Sometimes it could be decades, few decades, people to kind of understand, come to that conclusion. The majority of the people in the world come to that understanding and that awareness, and then feel need to, and also, like it is throughout the history, there are movements, there are certain time when movement is towards something, and then that movement goes, and then there's another movement that go in different directions. And so it is a movement of frustrations and anger and all of that at the moment, those negative. And I believe that will go, and then there will be a better kind of movements, because it is not something that we have not seen in the past. It is something that we have seen and experienced throughout the history many times, that have been repeated many times. And the world has gone through that many times. And so again, that is my belief, and that could be again my blind hope. But I hope it's not a blind hope, and I do feel that. Okay, then dedications.
Page 8.
Nyo to da lama sangye kyo ne do wa chi kyam ma lu pa e sa la kwe ba shung sen cho ren bo che ma ke pa na ke kyo che ke wa nyam ba me ba yang kong le kong do pe wa shou.
Prophecy kindness to protect.
And the castle, which contain wishful feeling jewels, so every single benefit and happiness in this world may have long life, and your holy wishes been spontaneously fulfilled. Teacher and assembly of children of victorious one, Savaka, Prateka Buddhas, victorious Lord Sang Father and Son, along with the lineage master, all the objects of refuge and infinite land. Please bestow the virtues and goodness to accomplish this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Buddhist precious and complete teaching through explanation and practice, through the emerald patience, then the difference. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. But starting from the point for the sake of victorious one teaching, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for all mother being suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of blessings, the ocean of three jewels, and great gate of each of children are victorious one. May the smile of the revelation strictly beam in the glory for fortune this. Amahu, according to this visualization, those we subdue, make clear in the light of your words spoken advice, secret condensation, essence of Buddha's teaching. Foremost and holy Lama, to you who are supreme, we make this prayer of supplication. Lama, please live. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.